So, welcome to our holiday episode of Crip Campus. How are you today, Ryan?
Good. Thanks for being here. I'm good. I'm happy that, at the very least, it's our episode that is situated in a cold, dark time of the year.
That's true.
And we get to be together.
Yeah, that's right. We get holidays here at our university. Faculty in particular are pretty much allowed to just leave from December 16th until January 5th. Are you going to be doing anything with that time off that you'd like to share?
Nothing remarkably good or interesting.
That's good because the show needs to be kind of tight and interesting. No. So please don't share any boring thing.
Just family-centric holiday.
Do you celebrate a particular holiday at this time?
I'll do a Christmas.
Okay.
I have a festive tree up in the living room at home, and I'm trying to think if we do anything else particular food traditions. So I like to have cream puffs on New Year's Eve.
Okay.
What about you?
I started using some Latin American traditions at New Year's Eve in particular once I started traveling to Latin America. And so in many countries, you eat lentils on New Year's because they're shaped like coins and you would like more money. You take your suitcase around outside at midnight on New Year's Eve and you walk it around, which is way funnier here in the mud and the snow than it is there where it came from. And if you walk it around your block, basically, then you'll have more luck with travel in the next year. If you wear yellow underwear, you will find, I think, money, and red, you will find love. You should eat 12 grapes at midnight because that represents something for each of the months of the year. And so I've done all of those things over the last, say, 4 or 5 years. And it's pretty funny.
It's great.
Yeah. I live in the country and my suitcases are just destroyed from this plan where I'm dragging them through the mud, like around their house.
What counts as your block? Yeah, just the house.
Just my house. You couldn't go outside at midnight on New Year's Eve to do anything else. Yeah, but a normal person who lives in a normal location might walk around the block.
Normal.
I know. Well, more people do live in places where there are blocks. Yeah, exactly. But I chose to do this other thing. And we're all, I'm sure, perfectly fine people. So maybe I should say typical or more often seen or experienced.
Okay.
So anyway, we have this idea for kind of a holiday episode. And so we talked about it being kind of non-Christian, sort of a secular episode, but it is easy to fall into Christmas habits because of a calendar and because that's what everybody else is doing. Do you think that has a relationship to ableism? Just sort of accidentally doing Christmas without really thinking about it, and then the commercials enhance this, etc.
Well, I mean, exactly like you said. I think we do Christmas the same way we do, at the very least, ableism.
Mm-hmm.
We just fall into it. Now you've reminded me, there's this great essay by a good friend and great disability studies scholar named Eliza Chandler, Chandler, called Sidewalk Stories. There's more to it. But in the essay, she talks about walking down the street in Toronto. She's got cerebral palsy and walks with a particular gait where her one foot drags a lot. Anyway, she talks about how when she falls down and what happens. And she says, well, I'm not the only one that falls down. People fall down all the time. What if we take this falling time to be a meaningful time? Without saying the word time anymore.
Sure, I believe it, but go ahead.
I do like that word. She, I think, encourages us to, and I know Alison Kafer takes her up in Kafer's book, Feminist Queer Crip, where she says, well, what if this period of dissension is a collective opportunity to think and feel and re-examine, well, what's going on? Where have I landed? What brought me here? And now what are we all going to do? I mean, I think, right, this is, if we've got from December 16th to January 4th to do something differently, maybe maybe we come up with our own, maybe we have or come up with our own anti-ableist and anti-disableist traditions.
Well,
I don't know what those would be.
I don't either. I've received no models for how to not be ableist or disableist, at least not like the media or my family or
there's certainly not a bajillion movies and commercials and baked into everything we do stuff. No one's talking about the war on ableism or even the war on disableism. Like some people will talk about the war on particular wintertime holidays.
I have heard that, yeah, that if someone doesn't celebrate your holiday, then you're upset and it's a war, which is interesting, because I think of war as having like a lot of resources involved and whatever, but it's fine.
A popular big box store. I don't like to say the name.
There's a vowel sound.
I'm not buzz marketing anybody. That's what it is. Target sold this popular nationwide big box store
With like a red
with a red circle label. Had a Santa Claus ornament, and the Santa Claus was using a wheelchair.
Oh,
last year, and I think we bought one in my house. We did or two, and believe it or not, just like the Santa Claus of various racial identities, people got really upset about that. Santa Claus isn't disabled.
whoa, but like mostly he just sort of is in his sleigh and he's riding around and then he's telling those like elves what to do. I almost said enslaved people, but seems fine. But I understand that representation matters. I was getting on a plane the other day and there were these photos of various Delta passengers, like they were advertisements about all the cool stuff that you can do on the plane, like listen to your devices and whatever. And yeah, they were trying to represent different kinds of people. Like there was a family enjoying something, and then there was like a cool guy enjoying something. And the people in front of me were giving their commentary on each of the posters, right? And so they were like, yeah, so they were talking about this and this. And then we got to one where the image was of two people walking outside, and the woman didn't have one arm, and then the man had this big scar like down the front of his leg. And I'm not really sure what the scar situation was, but the man noticed the scar first, and he goes, oh, look at this guy's scar. And then they both looked up and noticed that the woman didn't have an arm, and I think it occurred to them both at the same time that this was one of the chapters of showing how Delta like includes everyone, right? And then the guy's like hot take on that poster was just they're including people with disabilities. And then they just got on the plane. And I was like, oh, okay, like he had kind of a little bit of a take on all the rest of them. But on this one, he was just like, they're including people with disabilities. And I thought, I mean, they could have done worse. Like, yeah, exactly. And so like, that's how the average passenger, or at least the guy in front of me, interpreted this attempt to sort of include people. I mean, there's nothing in particular about not having an arm while using an airplane that I think would be as relevant as being in a wheelchair, using a wheelchair and trying to use an airplane, because there are more accommodations needed theoretically, like if you have to have a wheelchair brought to the gate, or I'm not sure how that works, right?
Yeah, but from what I hear, I'm friendly and professorial with a bunch of we here at EWU, we have a wheelchair basketball team.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of the players actually use wheelchairs to get around most of the time. You don't have to be on the team.
Okay.
You can be non-wheelchair using and just use one during the games. But apparently, according to them, it's just awful. Using a plane, trying to get on the plane with using a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Because they throw their devices around like your suitcases. And often they'll get damaged or broken or both. And it's just super inconvenient. I know from traveling with somebody that uses a mobility scooter, we're definitely on the plane 10 more minutes longer while waiting for the scooter bits to be brought up from the belly of the plane. And that is, we don't have, I'm trying to connect it back to these traditions. And it's certainly a regular routine thing. Maybe we should have a song that we sing while we're waiting. I don't know.
Maybe a holiday song. maybe related to waiting. Well, yeah, it's clear to me that they yes, they included people with disabilities in this picture, and not ones that would be particularly limiting when trying to board and get off of a plane, because that probably sends the wrong message, I guess.
Well,
So,
well, right, exactly. And then I want to know more about that.
me too. Delta. That's so you can just maybe Google what Delta's inclusive images are or whatever. But I got off track. I just happened to have traveled for the holidays a little bit and saw that.
Whatever you're comfortable sharing, how was it in general, but also about things. Well, did you encounter any ableism or disableism or?
Yes.
Yeah.
My relative, who I assume will not be listening to this, but does have the link, is actively disableist, and likes to tell me about that when I go visit. And so that was actually the first conversation I had to have, was about how people who use various kinds of access things, let's say it's a mobility aid in this instance, are really just taking up a lot of space and time and brain power of my relative. And he's not happy about that. And he wanted me to know that. And he knows that I have a podcast about disability. So I think it's to make my personal time. Yeah, because he's got to like worry about all the people who use like scooters or other devices that he might have to pay attention to. And sometimes there's like a special area, like he hates curb cuts. He thinks that I know. That's why I have a disability podcast.
Who hates curb cut?
Yeah.
I mean, you're
relative.
Your uncle.
Good. Let's do that. Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. It's like a real waste of a lot of resources. He hates bike lanes. He thinks that they're really taking up the space that he would use to drive his truck. And that all took place in the first 15 minutes of a 3-day trip. So I looked in the couch cushions for any kinds of drugs or alcohol. No, I'm just kidding. To get through the time.
Buy those things.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm sure you regret asking, but that's what my holiday travel was like. But now I'm back and I'm going to hang out with my friends who are less ableist now. And so I'm glad we're here together. That's great. We're also here with Jim, our producer. So yeah, it goes 2 thumbs up.
Oh, nice. What? Yeah. So
make this more tied to holidays. I feel like we're about to go into
this holiday, because there's lots of holidays in the world.
Yes.
And back to the U.S. Okay. My first Thanksgiving break after starting my PhD in disability studies, I went to my cousin's family's house and sat right across the table from sort of the matriarch of my cousin's mother-in-law.
Okay.
She was the big matriarch of the family. She had a 2-word first name, so that's how you know her.
Like Marianne? Or like Cindy Lou? Or what kind of a
Well, okay. I could be talking about anybody. Her name was Betty Lee.
Okay, so it is kind of like kind of cute.
Because Cindy
yeah.
Lou.
Yeah.
So, and she would have had to have been 50-something if she was a day, as they say. But we're sitting there, literally not as far away as you and I are right now.
2 feet for our listeners.
Yeah. And we're sitting there and we're talking into our little Thanksgiving dinners. And she's talking about something. She says, blah, 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 the R word.
Oh.
Blah, 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 the R words.
So she's talking about people and not using it as an adjective.
Right.
Like, okay.
Right.
I mean, either way, I have some questions. But in this case, it was like some people, and the people are labeled with this label.
With this label. I heard it happening and I thought about it and I said, do I do anything? Well, I'm doing this PhD. I've got to say something. So I just said, Betty Lee, do you mean people with intellectual or maybe cognitive impairments? And she goes, no, I mean that word. And then this was 20 years ago. I said, we don't really use that word anymore. And she goes, who doesn't? I use it all the time. And she says, I work.
Point proven.
She goes on to clarify that she works at a special school and the people there know that they're R-worded. And for instance, little Johnny, he'll tell you, I'm R-worded. And so I said, that's interesting. So what is it about little Johnny that's little? Is he short? Is his dad's name John?
Okay. Good. Yes.
I don't know. Or are you treating him like a little kid? how old is he? 36.
What?
Yeah. And I said, oh, okay, well, so exactly. Even just calling him Little Johnny, fine, it's a nickname, whatever, but it's clearly doing this work too. And similarly, when you say the R word, at least for our Thanksgiving conversation, that's doing similarly negative work. And that's something to think about. Can you pass the potatoes?
Yeah.
And it didn't really go anywhere, but I also think it was a useful conversation.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the kinds of things, what you were just saying, it's awful, but it also happens all the time.
Right.
What do we do?
Great question. I have thought many times about what I should have said, but didn't, and then thought many times about how I've already had that conversation with that person. And so either they know that, and either he knows that and he's just still doing it anyway, or he doesn't remember that because he's kind of older. And so whatever. And to be clear, when you're old, that doesn't imply that you have a memory challenge, right? However, in his case, I think he might have some memory challenges, right? Like, and so think sometimes figuring out whether saying something is going to change that person's behavior is part of my calculus. I know my mom said something about trans people a few years back that really, I thought because she was interacting with some people in the story that she was going to interact with in the future, that I should say something because I thought that maybe she would act differently toward those people. Mm-hmm. But like, if I thought this person was going to apply this new information about ableism or about using different words or whatever to his friends or when he's talking to someone else, I might say something like, I can't even, that conversation I've had it so many times that I just think about all the things I could have said. How does it bother you, right? Like, is pretty much the main, like, yeah, I know, but here's the script I'm going to write on a piece of paper and take with me every single time I go back home, which is just, how does that make you feel? And then I know it's going to be like, angry. And then the next part will be, that sounds hard. I too have been angry. I'll leave it a little blank in case the emotion is like a different word emotion. But you can't argue with someone who's making an I statement about their own feelings. Literally, it would just sound like you were just making up a whole new topic of conversation. If I'm like, oh, yeah, I've been sad too. And then you're like, well, that's what I'm saying about these bike lanes, right? It just sounds like, wait, we're not talking about the same thing anymore, right? Like, but I didn't write that down on a piece of paper and carry it with me for those days.
Why do you think anger is the only emotion it's okay for you to have or talk about?
Ooh, you are not invited to my family's Christmas or whatever they want to call it down there because that would not go well. In fact, you would lose this conversation that would ensue from this comment that you just made because eventually it
would turn into a fight.
Yeah, you just realize that you should either physically leave that area or you'd be in like a fight, right? And so better to just sort of.
Well, I would look your uncle. I'm gonna again.
Yeah, let's do it.
And I would say, I would do this. No one's expecting this. I would look at them and I would cross my arms. Yeah, I would say, yeah, that's what I like about this time of year. All the snowflakes.
What? You should not do that. It's gonna make it worse. This is the last thing I'm going to say about that trip. It's really not related to any of these other topics, but I would like to say that early in the trip, we both established that we thought AI was like a frightening future event and current event. And then later when my uncle said, well, Black people and white people get different prison sentences. And I did not know where he was going to go, but I was afraid of where he was going to go. And then I was like, And then he was like, well, you know what I'm saying. Black people and white people get different prison sentences. And as my friend Ryan, I do know that. I do know that the answer is that Black people get longer prison sentences for a variety of reasons, ranging from previous incidents and involvement with the police to maybe some judicial prejudice or I don't know, right? Mm-hmm. But when he was saying that, I was thinking, well, we're on the same page, right? Like, because he's saying something that I also think. And then the follow-up sentence was, that's why white people are always sent to jail for longer and in greater numbers than Black people. And then if you're alone in a room with someone and they're trying to argue a data point and you don't have any way to look it up and you don't have any of your professor people around, you're just in a room with a guy who just said a thing that's demonstrably false. And so then I said, this is what I'm saying. We should get AI to determine prison sentences for people because it won't be as biased as the judges. I actually think it will be because of program. I get it right. Like, but it made him stop talking. I was like, this is great. Like, figure out a common enemy early, like AI, and then just say that in every like conversation. So if he's like, I don't like these curb cuts, I'll be like, I bet AI invented them. Like, I bet they benefit AI, right? Like, I don't think women should be driving cars. I think AI should drive their cars for them, right? I really could use this, right? And I only came up with it later whenever I found out how many white people are unfortunately caught in the criminal justice. It's just bias that is allowing them to fill up the prisons and no one else.
Just shake your head, cluck your tongue, and just go, AI, though.
Right. I'm now realizing that this is AI is the solution to my problem.
The cause and solution to all of life's issues.
That's a quote from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, because you and I are the exact same age. So is Jim. We're all from like a 3-year period.
Let's talk about dark, cold, festive time.
Yeah, let's do it.
How?
I understand you have something prepared for that.
Okay. Should we look at that?
Why not?
Look at them all. I use AI to help me develop some of these.
Causality loop too.
Let's see. Here, I don't know if this works. We'll see what happens. So I've come up with a few questions to do that whole, like, the whole ghost of the Dickens energy and ghost of Christmas, access, past, present, future.
Okay.
I'm interested. This is exactly what you were saying, to the extent that we've read parts of Crip Space-Time, and Margaret talks about the haunted house of ableism. And so at the extent to which we just live in a space, place, world that is haunted by ableism, disablism. These are some hopefully fun questions.
Should I ask you some of these questions?
Let's ask each other. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have them?
I have Ghost of Access Past questions. Would you like to answer one of those?
Ooh, yes. Not the third one.
Yes, the second one. Which access barriers are framed as tradition rather than exclusion?
I know that's a good question. I just can't think of an answer.
But what's coming up for me is just Jay Dolmage from Not Mad at School. That's Margaret Price.
For
academic ableism, right? Like the pillars outside of an institution or the big steps leading up to Georgetown University or whatever. I mean, here, pass through the pillars, right? So there's some traditions about how colleges or universities are built on purpose to look some way that isn't very welcoming.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking of carolers. Oh, well, you know what? I was just at a local art crafts show.
Okay.
That was holiday themed.
Okay.
Winter, Christmas themed. And it was neat, but it was incredibly crowded. And I wonder if that isn't something that is in some ways ableist, that you're supposed to be able to, number one, get in the spaces, but be in crowds that are at the very least a bunch of people crammed into a space. It's going to be louder. Even that, right?
Yes.
Could, at least potentially, for people with specific impairments, but beyond people with specific impairments, could just be ableist. It assumes that everyone wants to and can comfortably navigate and be in this kind of environment for long enough to buy your treats.
Yeah. And I assume if it's a tradition now to go out on Black Friday and buy stuff, that's also probably difficult, since I've seen on the news before people fighting or whatever, like waiting a long line or something like that, which could be limiting for people with various sensory experiences, or I don't know if it's like physically difficult to get through. I have not been shopping on Black Friday.
I mean, there's certainly economic barriers there.
Okay.
It's all interconnected. So,
yeah.
What else?
That was a good answer.
Yeah?
I think so.
Okay. Let me ask you something. Do you have a preference?
No.
How has the accommodations model shaped? Oh, I kind of like that. How has the accommodations model shaped how faculty think about responsibility?
Faculty think that it is the responsibility of the Disability Support Office to accommodate students, and in fact, are a little bit like frightened, I think, of starting, and maybe rightfully so, like a conversation with a student about something that they might be like observing that the student could need that's not there in the class or whatever. So it's kind of like, all right, well, I don't really know if I'm supposed to initiate that conversation. So I want to make sure that the student has gone to the disability support office to get permission to be using a fidget toy in my class or whatever, right? And then that will assuage my feeling of inadequacy as an instructor because they will be assisting me, but I'm going to offload the responsibility on them is the point, right? Like on the disability office, and then also on the student that's receiving the accommodations. So I think it seems like something that's not my responsibility anymore. As I'm thinking about it, I think about how saying thank you for your service just assuages liberal guilt and not actually interrogates like the ways in which we've contributed and are contributing to like various military actions. And so like this is a way of just sort of not having to think about, not having to feel like it's my responsibility anymore, right? Like, because the student should have like worked all that out with the disability office, and the disability office should have like given them whatever they need.
Well, and this is what you made me think of. What's the difference between that, what you're describing, and saying after the end of the quarter, well, somebody failed, but I did my job. I recommended they go to the writing center.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I guess it's kind of off of you now, even though it is technically your job to teach the people how to do the things in the class. Yeah. And so I think basically it's bigger than just, okay, so I have these 6 students and they have accommodations. And so when it comes to those 6 students, I'm going to make sure to adhere to whatever the disability office tells me to do.
Or them.
Yeah, exactly. But the existence of them with their accommodations makes it so that I, first of all, see it as a binary. There's the others and then there's them. But I also don't even think about the others. I do because I do universal design kind of stuff. But one might just see the others and be like, okay, they get the normal class, right? Like with the non-captioned videos or what captioned videos, right? And then the other ones, I'll make sure I'm like crossing my T's and dotting my I's. But what if you thought all of them were us or them? You figure out how that binary works, like, and then you would probably just make sure that all of them have like various levels of captioning or whatever materials published in advance, extra time, not extra time on tests, but like add amounts of time on tests that is, appropriate. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think even there saying, well, what do we mean? What kinds of time do we want? There's a big difference between extra time on test and sufficient time. I don't know what it is, but it certainly feels different. What? Cindy, you've said before that you're always looking for cool new universal design access stuff, and you're going to have new classes in the winter, I assume. Do you have any new things you're going to try?
This morning, I rewrote my syllabus to take out all language that refers to students as students, and I changed it all to you. And then I changed all the words instructors to me. And then I changed the academic integrity part to not just have like students will be reported to the disciplinary authorities, because they will. And I did that last quarter. But I'm like, I believe that you are honest and that you would follow the social work code of ethics, which has integrity and competence in its foundation. And I believe that about you. And like, so that's why this is going to go great or whatever. Right. So anyway, I took out all the passive voice, which I think makes it more welcoming, both for people who might get overwhelmed for reasons related to maybe disability by reading walls of text and just a lot of stuff, but also for people of various other backgrounds who might want to have a more personal kind of a relationship with the instructor. And then my first assignment is normally a syllabus quiz. I teach in a hybrid class where students are matriculating at their house some of the time and then in person some of the time. And so their quiz is no longer like, how many absences can you have without missing points or like whatever. It's an annotated syllabus where you have to read through the whole syllabus and then write down in the margins like areas that you have questions about or things that you like or things that you look forward to. I got this from the book Pedagogy of Kindness. And so that's the syllabus quiz now, is like you dialoguing with me about these like parts by doing like an annotated kind of thing. And then I added all the reasons for every assignment, like the purpose of every assignment. Yeah. And what you will get out of it kind of a thing. This is all motivational stuff. And so who knows which people that's going to appeal to, but it would appeal to anyone more than the passive voice that was in there before. And the implication that you're about to do something wrong at all times. And so I'm mad at you like in advance, basically. And you better get an accommodation if you want me if you want me to not be mad at you more. And so now it's just like, hey, we're all in here together and you're gonna do some stuff and I'm gonna do some stuff. And like, that sounds cool. Let me know if there's any like thing you have any questions about, like from day one on the syllabus. But I don't blame you if you didn't let me know about some stuff you have questions about. Like, let's keep it a conversation.
Well, can we talk about late work for a second? Because that's a recurring annual tradition
of you receiving work that's late from your students or not receiving it at all, I guess.
Yes. Well, and I'm absolutely saying this as somebody whose parent came to pick them up on the last day of a year semester.
Okay.
My mom came to pick me up at 10 in the morning, and I said, okay, hold on. I had just, real quick, I have to do an entire semester's worth of work. That happened. We didn't leave till 10 o'clock at night.
Wow. You hadn't done it because you didn't want to. It was difficult. Like, can you explain why?
All of that.
Oh, okay. They didn't want to because it was difficult.
It was. Because I didn't want to, because it was difficult. Exactly. It was an independent study logic class.
Okay.
And so I didn't know the material at all. And it was exactly what we tell our students, hopefully now, don't do last minute work. Mm-hmm. And so when I go over the late work policy, I always sort of will nod to that time. I'm saying this from experience. Mm. I know how easy it can be to do, either accidentally, and yet my late work policy is, I won't accept it unless you made it right. I know. Yeah. What is yours?
It changes based on level of student, based on how many classes I'm teaching, like a lot of stuff. But often, if I want students to read comments and actually improve their work, I don't give them a grade until it's revised to the point that I find it acceptable, and then I give them full credit.
Okay.
So it's like you can only get not acceptable or full credit, but you have to read my comments on your way from not acceptable to full credit. So those assignments can be technically like pass-fail, which is nice as far as me not wanting to shave off like 1 point for this thing, right? It forces them to read comments if they would like to go from having a 0 to 100 or whatever on that assignment. But it's been hard when some people are like, I don't want to revise it. Can you just give me like the grade? And then I'm kind of like, well, a grade is 0 unless you revise it. And then it has come to my attention. It's like, okay, that's a mandatory like revision. It's not like an opportunity. It's like, you can't refuse kind of a thing. So you can figure that part out. But I think like unlimited revisions and points for revisions that you, for example, if you're worried about somebody using AI to like generate content, it has to be that if they do that, they never can get points on that assignment. Whereas somebody who doesn't turn it in at all, but then later comes to you and they're like, oh, I just realized I'm going to fail this class if I don't turn this assignment in. And then they go do it, even though it's like 3 weeks late or whatever, they should be able to get some points because that's showing like, okay, I do reward you for doing like some work. And the people who just tried to turn in something else that they didn't write will get penalized like more seriously. I've also tried not grading at all. So with deadline, 1 year, I tried every single thing in the whole course is due on the last day. And I do want you to be going through module 1, module 2, and it would be great because you're stuck in those readings for that week for you to be doing your reflections or whatever. But there's no penalty. You just turn it in all on the last day. And all of those versions have resulted in frustration on everybody's part. I still do it because there are pedagogical like explanations for why some of that stuff would be appropriate. But students want, by and large, to be told what to do, and they want to write papers, and they want to do the typical traditional stuff, even when I've told them that you don't have to do that. You could just come up to me in a Zoom meeting or in person and just tell me what you learned from that reading. Or you can write a paper. And I think I'm saying like, you can jump off a cliff or eat this ice cream cake, right? And the students were like, I wrote a paper because I didn't trust what you meant when you said that I could just demonstrate my knowledge, right? Yeah. So because they've just been so chided by their previous teachers or whatever. They're just not used to it, right? And so just like if you say, do you want a 10-minute break or 2 15-minute, like if you tell them some different things, do you want to take a break at this time or a longer break at this time or whatever, they're just like, oh, can you just tell me
that's how long the break is? Yeah, no, I've noticed that for sure.
So
well, I just graded somebody, I just responded to somebody's 50 now because there are deadlines. We use Canvas. I know that it was 50 days late.
Okay.
And it's a 60-day quarter, more or less. And so I read what they wrote and I commented on it and gave them feedback. But I also said, due to when you, something like, hey, due to when you turn this in, it's really hard. It feels unproductive to spend a big amount of time on this because you don't have time
To revise.
Yeah. And I do like the idea of, I was trying, I didn't want to be a jerk about it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say, yeah, it's true. Okay. Maybe we can focus on that another time.
Yeah, we're doing some holiday stuff now. Can you explain how the questions that we've just asked have something to do with Ghost of Access Past? Because it was like about tradition, and then it was about how's the accommodations model shaped how faculty think about responsibility. So that's like the existing or the past.
Right.
That's how everything's past up until the second, I guess, right? So
I think that all the ways that teaching, learning at higher ed environments, right, are haunted by these spirits in all those ways of what's the right, good, best way to do things. Whether that's because, well, of course, that's just the way you do it, or that's how I had to do it, so you have to do it. When I hear Ghosts of Access Past, that's what I think of.
And so when we get into the present, should those things be their examples of ableism? Because it's not really a ghost of it. I mean, I guess that in the original text, there is a ghost of the present, and they're not coming from the past. They're just showing. Actually, the only version I really am super familiar with is when Bill Murray was in Scrooge. And so in this case, he's watching his existing brother, like, open presents. Like, that's also true in the Dickens story. As far as his brother.
It's called Christmas Present, but it's really Christmas down the road.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Well, let's think. I don't remember what the specific questions are, but I think, that can be, well, what are we doing right now to be more accessible, to do more access? Whether that is, I'm acknowledging and working to undermine these historical pedagogical traditions in the world or in my own teaching. Like, I don't want to say, so if you cheat, you're done.
Sure.
And what can we do? So your example is perfect. Well, object this morning.
I just happen to be doing that today. And so let me ask you, as far as what's, coming up for you, because you're also planning to teach another set of classes. So what does rest even mean in higher education?
Oh, I remember when I wrote and cut and pasted that question out.
Okay.
Well,
let me ask, what time was it that you did that? And on what day of the week? Because it might contradict the idea that academics are even allowed to rest.
Well, it was a weekend night. It was last night, which was a Sunday. And it was probably around between 1 and 2 in the morning.
So that should have been resting. Theoretically, I don't got to be all sleeper.
That's just big circadian rhythm getting to you. Circadian yes. No, this past week, and this is the annoying thing because I like it. This past week, I've been finding my second wind for the day going towards class prep happening after 10 p.m. at night.
Wow.
Yeah. So for the last week, between 10 and 1:32 on Saturday, it was 2:30. I'll sit there and I'll work on class prep stuff.
That doesn't bother you, it sounds like.
I like that I have free time and space to sit and think and figure things out.
Is that only because the people with whom you live are otherwise engaged?
I used to think that was it. And even way back when, before most of the people were around, I used to think that way. No, I think for me, I feel that I don't have to worry about any of the worries of the day. Well, they're over now. Now I can focus on it. Even if quite honestly, it might be, I'm worried about this or that or the other thing during the day. And then at 10 o'clock, I can pull the dimmer switch on that and lower it. And then I could focus. But so what does rest look like, right? I think, well, this is supposed to, I'm off, right? I'm not, especially on a Sunday night. I'm not supposed to be working. I get the whole summer off. Yeah.
I think that's the question, right? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. I think what it looks like is maybe working a bit less. Maybe doing visible working, maybe a bit less.
It seems like one of the isms that we could easily tie to this is capitalism, right? Like we've been adding ism to a lot of things here, right? But
Yeah.
it's not ableism that makes you, I mean, it is to an extent because capitalism necessitates that everybody produce and work.
Capitalism is disabled.
Exactly.
Ableist.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So it's like, well, wait, why would it be good when you're on your rest time to be working or whatever? And it's like, oh, well, if we're talking about waters that we swim in, that one was like the more obvious one, right? Like, and that's why Marta Russell's book, Capitalism and Disability, is so fantastic and available in PDF for free on the internet. It's a lot, but great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because like the real answer is why, if you're saying, why am I working during my break time? It's because I'm worried about my job. I want to do good at it so I don't lose it or whatever. And why am I worried about losing a job? Because society taught me that that's the only way that I have worth.
That's my value.
Yeah, exactly.
What does it look like to you?
Rest. I'm the same way. I don't really even like when there's not a clear structure about what I'm supposed to be doing with my day. And when I'm working, there is a clear structure. And so when I'm on vacation, I think about how nice it will be sometimes to go back to work.
Oh, well.
But at least if I can kind of structure my vacations to have a little structure, right? Like I'm going to go to this museum, I'm going to take this bus, I'm going to do that, then it's like a little okay. But yeah, I've never felt more stoked and full of energy and whatever than when I'm working, especially when I'm doing something creative like teaching or writing or something like that. When I'm having to do some spreadsheets or whatever, it's a little bit less exciting.
Well, yeah. But I mean, and isn't it fun? Isn't it fun to be doing the things you actually enjoy doing?
Yes, they just happen to be working. My kids.
That's what, hey, then it's really work, like they say.
I mean, again, somebody from another country could easily just be like, oh, that lady thinks that her favorite thing to do is work. And that's probably because she had to do so much of it that she just become all messed up in her mind, like all mixed up. But if we showed her what it would be to just pursue your hobby for a long time or whatever, then that could be good. I even learned another language, and then now I'm just figuring out different ways to use that language at work. Brilliant. So that when people ask me now, why at 45 you just learn another language? I'll just be like, well, I can talk to students in that language. I can interpret for people, like just various like work related, or I have some volunteer gigs. And now I use Spanish in those activities too, right? Like, so I know.
You haven't let it creep into your, I don't know your other hobbies.
Yeah.
You haven't let it creep into your hobbies, have you? Like you're not
work.
Yeah, you're not watching TV in Spanish.
Agua Today is in Spanish, but I don't watch TV shows about social workers or academics. I watch TV shows about people who killed people, and then usually they're the husbands, and then I'm like, I knew it.
Or you're like, I don't remember how to say I knew it in Spanish.
Sabía eso.
Sabía eso. Exactly.
Perfect. Okay, so that's what my rest looks like. Okay, now let's talk about future. I actually spent part of the weekend reading a journal that I found about serving students with disabilities that was published in 2000 so that I could see if anything seemed like dramatically different from then to now. And it was interesting to read this because it was talking about intentionally recruiting students with disabilities or intentionally recruiting faculty or other employees with disabilities, like you might for other identity categories. And I don't know if I'm aware of us doing anything like that here, or if that's even like possible, because this was in 2000 and this was some ideas that they thought would be good, right? Like, what do you know about that?
I know about not that.
Yeah. It seems like it might be like illegal or something.
I think right now it's 100% illegal.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of here, and I'm not speaking for anybody who's not in the room, but having had conversations with the, well, now current and also former director of See Our recent episode 4. And then knowing and having talked to the one of the previous directors, famously, do I say his name?
I don't think so.
Okay. One of the previous directors would always tell this story about meeting with prospective students and how one of their parents wrote a letter to the school saying, oh, this person met with me and my prospective student and it was great, and they felt very welcomed, and that school's on the top of our list now, and word spread about that, and a lot of people were supportive. And then somebody, again, I do not know who, higher up in an administrative level said, no, your job is not to actively recruit people like that. Effectively, your job is to make sure they don't sue us.
Okay.
Now, this was years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't think either of those people are around anymore. But is that what this is suggesting? What is this? What is this journal anyway?
It's called New Directions for Student Services, and this one was an edition or an issue called Serving Students with Disabilities. And I actually found many of the things were, at least if they were making recommendations for the future, they were talking about the current situation. In fact, they were talking about like how student affairs can serve students, that like having it all relegated to the Disability Support Office is kind of problematic.
And that's
because career advising should have a role, student affairs should have a role, etc. But at the same time, sometimes coordination also has like some problems. There's several things about Title II in here, and I know we have talked about that a little bit on this show. But one thing that I think is interesting, because I was at a holiday event yesterday, and someone said, "Hey, I saw a commercial about how EWU is the region's polytechnic now. What does that mean?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't think anyone has a good understanding of that word, but my understanding is," and we sort of talked out, and then several people Googled it, and then we all concluded that applied learning is key to the definition of a polytechnic.
Okay.
I worked here and didn't know that. And so under this article is talking about how experiential learning, so in social work, we have practica. In other areas, students might volunteer or might be a requirement, like nursing or dental hygiene. And under Title II, students with disabilities have the right to participate in programs or activities such as these, right? Like, and so it says here under an article called Enhancing Out-of-Class Opportunities, written by Donna Johnson, it says that means that the institution sponsors internships and service learning opportunities for students, it must make these opportunities available to students with disabilities. The internship and service learning staff should also receive training on disability issues, such as creating welcoming environments and using appropriate disability language. So the reason this is related in my mind to the future of access is we have, as you may have heard, a new charge about making everything have an applied component, an experiential learning component. That's how the polytechnic idea goes in, or shows up in a variety of areas. So I know with how many students we've put in practicum in social work, like that we've had to make a lot of arrangements to accommodate various students in various locations. Some intern courses make you drive around in a car to go do things. Some make you have to be in a certain area that might be like kind of an enclosed space, and a variety of things, right? And so if a lot of our students were expected to go out in the future and do things as part of their degree earning, like credits or
do it more so now.
That's what I'm saying. So like in the future, if these are some charges that not only are legally binding, but now as a university, we are increasing our interest in students doing stuff like that. How prepared do you think the university is to place students with disabilities in a variety of contexts in the community? And who do you think would be some of the better, like, departments on campus or service units on campus to promote that? Because social workers, we can go around and be like, "Oh, you got a thing where you're sending some music students out in the community to do something?" Like, let us talk about how we did that, right? But I mean, our practicum department or whatever is within social work. We don't go around like educating the other people. And so, but there is an experiential learning set of professors right now that are all meeting on a regular basis to figure out how to implement this in the curriculum. Yeah, I was invited to participate, but I didn't want to. But I mean, if you weren't invited and are part of that group and it just sounds cool,
I don't know that I know about this.
Yeah, which is fine. But do they know? Are they just out there thinking about, okay, we're going to put some students in some field placements, or we're going to get them in the field,
we're going to get them in the river, in the office, in the classroom, get out there. Exactly. I mean, no, they're probably, I don't know these people.
Yeah.
No, they're probably not thinking about, and what about the students with impairments, and what about inaccessible experiential learning opportunities.
Because it's one thing to send 20 students to some place to do some kind of applied learning. Like, for example, I heard about accounting students years ago doing the accounting for an organization like a nonprofit who didn't have an accountant, and it was like a service activity, and then they got their books done, and then the students learn stuff or whatever, right? But even just something like that, where the students physically went to another location and then talked to the people that were there to try to get information about how to do their accounting. I can imagine many things where if there's 6 students that are going to show up at a time to do something like that, and one of them is like kind of different, if you will, or whatever, like someone's going to need to like monitor how well that person is welcomed there and how able they are to do various things.
And once the first student requests an ASL interpreter, whose job is it to fulfill that? And how much time how quickly do they call SAS and say, we need an interpreter?
Yeah.
And does SAS say, I'm sorry, this doesn't qualify under our purview. We can give you a phone number, but we can't do anything about it.
And we can't pay.
And we can't pay.
Yeah.
Well, let's assume, no, right. There's no infrastructure, right, in place for any of that. Again, or maybe there is, and they've all thought about this, but it'd be shocking.
And I'm just thinking about if I'm working at a nonprofit that has kind of a shoestring budget or whatever. Amen. So, I mean, if you tell me we can send you 4 students who don't need something that costs some money to participate at your place, and then 1 who does, I probably have an opinion about how, no matter how big my heart is or whatever, about how much more time and resources it took to have that person do an internship or volunteer time at my agency.
And that's ableism.
Mm-hmm.
And disablism, if not disablism.
Yeah. And that's one future thing that I was reflecting on yesterday, is that is one of the thrusts or impetus for where we're going at this university.
Well, and that's on I think that hits on my list of rapid fire bah humbugs. It was the 12 days of bad access, or whatever I called it, is saying, hey, we've got this great new innovative forward-looking future plan in mind. Not so fast, disabled people. You're not a part of it.
Right.
Or other groups. We're not a part of it. That's why I always find myself at meetings saying stuff like, that's great. That's exciting. I'm on board. Thumbs up. Who's going to be responsible for making sure that this bold new future is one where disabled people or other marginalized groups can be there if they meet all the other criteria for being there?
Right.
Not just because wouldn't it be nice, but because this person is super qualified and whatever, and in every way belongs there, but can't get there.
Right.
Or can't be there long term. And I do that. I'm sure. Hey, is the future an hour and a half from now? Because I think there's a meeting about that.
Yeah, we will talk about Title II, certainly.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's what. Yeah, no. However I wrote it, saying either making these big plans and completely ignoring whole swaths of the world, potential students or current students.
Correct. Yeah.
Or future graduates. Look at that. Back to your Delta example, right? I assume the reason that they made and then posted that advertisement was, hey, people like you, pay us money.
100%.
Use our service. We'll take your money too.
Right. All the people in these pictures, we'll take each of this family that kind of looked Asian, this guy who's a cool guy, black guy with like an orange suit on or whatever. Then there were some disabled white people. Don't want to do too much intersectionality there. Right. We'll take the money of all these people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want Houston to be able to take everyone's money.
That's all that I'm looking for in this holiday season.
The season of giving. To give you strength.
Give it us
right.
your money.
That's right. That's right.
And we should make the music be crisp, winter themed. I don't know if that's are jingle bells particularly Christian?
I love, by the way, that I am now the consultant on what is secular and what is Christian. Because jingle bells, jingle bell, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it's ride. And one was sleigh. Oh, dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh over the fields. The sand is in there somewhere, isn't it? Laughing all the way. No, maybe not. Those ones.
That one. That's about riding in a sleigh.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I mean, it's really specific in terms of a part of the world that has slaves or
Slaves and
snow.
or snow,
It's like
and reindeer.
4% of the entire globe, right? But sure.
Okay, so it's exclusionary.
Yeah.
But sorry, yeah.
So,
So
want to review these 12 things we keep calling access but aren't? Perhaps I could read
let's,
that
yeah,
to
yeah,
you if you have any commentary on that.
yeah. See,
Could.
yeah. See, what happens to people listening is I come up with things and put them in a shared Google Doc, and then I don't bring my computer to easily look at them.
But we are recording in my office, so it's easier for me, like
Yeah.
my office building.
Yeah.
So one thing that we keep calling access but isn't is recording lectures while punishing absences. So is this when a student or the instructor can record the lecture? Obviously, the instructor is the one who punishes the absences.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that grinds my gears
Does it?
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking of where when you say, well, I'm going to record, I mean, I do this. I don't do the second part, but I say, hey, I'm going to record a lecture today, or guess what? I recorded a lecture a while ago. I'm going to post it. So but that doesn't mean you can't show up to class. Why not? Why not? I've got the content. It might be a year old, but it's there. If it's coming to class would be a struggle today, then what's up? Why can't I do that?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, because what I've been saying lately is there's a lot of pressure to only be face-to-face or online, unless you're hybrid, but you have to articulate your hybridity way in advance.
Yeah.
And it has to be official.
Yeah.
And so I might very well say, hey, this class is in person. I'm going to have a Zoom window open just in case, but this class is in person.
Mm-hmm.
Or face-to-face, rather. And yeah, I think we're always, whether it's AI or telecommunications, we're always so excited and happy about how interconnected we are, but also when it comes to education, no, you need to sit in a room and look at me and listen and be there. And that's what participation and attendance and engagement looks like, period.
Right.
That's not access.
Right. So it's like in your syllabus, you might also explain, because I was talking about modifying my syllabus this morning, like that you have consistency with, yes, there are alternatives to participating in class, and I will provide those to you, and those merit equivalent points to coming to class.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if you lose points for coming to class, let's say, because that's part of like your syllabus, you get those points back when you answer 3 questions from the lecture that you watched, like whatever. I mean, I think that's a way to, because you're not saying that being physically present is superior when you offer somebody another way to accomplish the assignment. Or hopefully you're not saying that. I mean, you can make the assignment extra hard or whatever, right? But I mean, we do still need the students to engage with the material, and watching my lecture alone is not the same as being there watching my lecture, if I have one, and then speaking to your peer next to you about that.
Well, I don't have a lecture.
I know, I don't.
We're talking, and now you're talking to them, and you can't do that if you're not in the room.
And so if they can do something that's an alternative, like watch the thing I recorded and then give me their 3 hot takes on it or whatever, now I know that they both consumed the material and engaged with the material. And so I would say if it was just a punishment for the absence, and then you could watch the video, that's not consistent. But if it was a punishment for the absence and then an opportunity to make up for the punishment by watching the video and then submitting 3 answers to some questions or whatever, for me, that would be more consistent, because you could incentivize not coming to class, which may be what you're trying to do or whatever, right? Like, I'm just thinking about what I would be trying to do.
Right. I didn't tell you. The other day I walked into the last official class meeting day.
Yeah.
And we had presentations to do. And I'd been sending out Canvas announcements and saying it in the room. And the day before, there'd been 10 students in the room out of a class with 20 people on the roster. And I said, okay, well, let's do a quick head count. Okay, if everybody's here, shows up the next day, we will need exactly this much time. Class is 2 hours and 20 minutes long. So I said, we're great. We got tons of time. If 2 to 3 more people show up, were still okay. And what happened is I walked in the room and 20 people were there.
Huh.
And because the other half of the class showed up. And I started singing. I'm not joking. This happened. I saw the people and I said in this way, I did this. I went, more people showed up than have been here all quarter. That throws our time off. And because I didn't want to get angry.
Sure.
But I needed to make my thoughts and feelings known. And
Singing controls your breathing. It is
true.
Is a well-known response to trauma.
Oh, is it? See, okay.
I mean, I'm not. I work in mental health, right? Like, for example, My Grandmother's Hands is a book about how to bodily become in sync when there's a non-police incident, or when you're just having like racial relations kind of stuff. And anyway, they talk about how, like, at a protest, if you can get everyone to start singing when the police show up and they're acting like they might tear gas you, then it is a way to have everybody breathing together, physically doing something together. And if you can get the police to sing at that same event, and they have varying examples of the police joining in and not joining in, now the police are even syncing their breathing and their, like, sort of energy, if you will, with the people in the crowd. So it's kind of so I think you reacted in a peace activist way.
Look at that.
Yeah.
I didn't even know. That's cool. And we did our thing. And I was able to say, I said that day, I said, you know what? I don't have to leave at 3:20. If you don't have to leave, let's do this. But could I have thought in advance?
Yeah.
Why do we all have to be here on this day and struggle to get everything done in this amount of time? I mean, that's access present and future, because hopefully I'll figure it out in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think you'll just spread out the final presentations over 2 days, and that's all.
Well, here, ask yourself one more question.
Okay, well, we're actually on 12 things we keep calling access, but aren't. And so, but you've spent inordinately long answering number 1, and so I'll just review a few more, and you can say which ones stand out to you that you want to comment on. So number 2, accessibility statements with no enforcement. Maybe self-explanatory, or?
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, okay, good. I like this. Number 3, extensions framed as favors. I have something to say about this. Women, when we do research about women professors and men professors, and how I haven't seen research about people that don't identify in one of those categories, students expect women to grant favors, grant extensions more than men. And when a woman is not sort of coddling you and doing whatever you want her to do, because she started out with an assumption that she would be caring like a mother or a nurse or something, when she just says no and maintains her boundaries, students find that more offensive than when a man who came in with the assumption that he would be smart and intellectual and like manly or whatever just said no. Well, I knew that was 50% of the possible things he could have said, right? Whereas with a woman, it's like, well, I expect her to go along with caring kinds of narratives quite a bit. And even when the students are just given a vignette and the only thing that's changed is the name, and the name sounds kind of masculine, a name sounds kind of feminine, the results are that they're more mad at the woman because they do regard extensions as like special hugging kinds of niceness and caring, right? Like versus like a part of the class that you can avail of if you ask or not or whatever. And so they just don't have that extra. We talked about a few episodes ago where if a student with a disability, if I already have a narrative about a student with a disability, then I'm going to act according to my narrative that I showed up with. And with female professors, students have a narrative that this is like a special favor and you owe it to me. It's true with any dominant, non-dominant group. Like I'm allowed to pat a child on the head or an old person or tell a woman that she should smile because I told her because I want her to. And that shows that I'm in a group that can like touch and give advice to another group. And that group is usually like in a non-dominant, role, right? And so, yeah. So here, when a person with a disability needs an extension on assignment, if the teacher can interpret it as a favor, which is part of the problem here, I think, right? And if that same teacher grants the favor or doesn't, it can have a different effect based on the gender of that instructor. But I think it makes sense that this is in your list, extensions framed as favors, right? Because it's like, well, I'm doing access, I'm giving this student access, but they owe me, or I'll remember them in 2 quarters, and they'll know that special thing I did for them or whatever. And then when they come to my class again, they'll more or less kind of like remember that I did that excellent thing for them, versus like brought them up to the same starting line as everyone else because of their access needs, right? So
there's no need for favors.
Exactly. In fact, that sounds really creepy. That sounds like some stuff that people who work not at our school, people who work in the government would do. I just didn't name names.
Oh no, it would be a pretty nice syllabus you've got there.
Yeah, exactly. Be ashamed if something happens to it. Exactly. Right. Exactly. Number 4, universal design as a buzzword, not a commitment. Have you heard people?
Oh, that classic.
Really?
Yeah. I always immediately go back to, I don't remember the exact language, but the Sarah Ahmed on being included, where she writes about, well, being included. And it's kind of there in the title. And Tanya Tichkowski's book, The Question of Access, and other of her work. So often, both of these authors include the ability to. I'm trying not to say inclusion, but frame inclusion, physical, actual inclusion of a number of different sorts of people. Well, we all do that. We're super inclusive, man. Or with universal design, of course. And both of those authors point out, number one, often those are just like we have a policy so that we don't have to do anything.
Right.
And then also, even if we have a policy, even if we have a space that is more accessible than it could be,
right,
that doesn't mean it's universally accessible.
Right.
Because of Tanya, she talks about an accessible washroom at the University of Toronto that, number one, it's accessible because it has an access sign on the door.
Okay.
But also the door is wide enough. The bathroom stalls are more or less physically accessible. But it's the habit to always keep a garbage can behind the door so that it can't fully open. Well, you're not going to find the policy that says we keep our garbage cans behind the door. That's just the thing people do.
Right. That's a cultural
thing. Like the Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No one likes it, but we all do it. And I'm not going to move that garbage can because I always see it there and it just seems like it's supposed to be there. So
who's it hurting?
Yeah, exactly.
Who's that garbage can hurting?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. We are running out of time now. So should I go through our remaining 12, the remainder of our list, or go to our closing reflection? What's our closing reflection? What did this year teach me about access that I didn't expect, or what do I want to carry forward?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So anything that you learned this year about access that you didn't expect?
Nope. No. Yeah.
I did. Yeah. I learned that I'm buying you time because I already remembered that I came to you over the summer with this problem. So I went away over the summer and had encounters with 2 women, both at separate times that had nothing to do with each other. And one of them just kept forgetting dates and important like events that were occurring at certain times, right? Like we'd arranged that we were going to meet at 3:00 on Thursday, and she just wouldn't have that information in her head later. And so I was getting kind of frustrated.
I've been doing that lately.
Okay.
And I know tell Yoda.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And so with her, I just got kind of frustrated. And then later she told me that she was in a bike accident that really caused her brain to have some like injury. And it's difficult for her with like dates and times. And after she told me that, then I thought she should have told me that before because she owed me that explanation. And then the same thing happened to me with another person within a month where this woman was just it wasn't memory, but it was just like following along, like we would interact and she would only talk about herself and never ask anything about anything else. It would just be, and the stuff she was saying about herself was really boring. It'd be like, I have this long list of stuff that I have to go buy at the store. And then the rest of the 10-minute conversation would be her verbalizing the list of things things that she needed at the store. And I was just like, does this person think that like other people would enjoy this? Like, am I somehow, do I look like I want to hear someone's list? And then much later, she told me that she had a stroke and she had some brain challenges, and that she knew that other people don't like it sometimes when she's saying her whole like shopping list out loud. And then it's something she's working on because she knows that other people don't like it, and that it's part of her brain injury. And I felt mad at her for not telling me earlier that she had this, because I would have been much more patient and I would have seen it as a symptom and something that I should probably pity or who knows what, right? Like, but instead I was just like taking you on face value, which was clearly a non-disabled person in both cases, right? Like, and then when you revealed to me that there was a disability component, I was like mad at you for not telling me sooner, because I kind of had a suspicion. And those were two things that I learned about access, which is that I'm not immune from the things that I go around telling people about, right? Because it was like, there's people who are disabled and there are people who aren't. And if you're in the right category in my brain, then I'm able to be compassionate and whatever. Until you have gotten your way into that category, good luck getting some patience from me. I got my own shopping list. Why are we listening to yours, right? So I learned some stuff about how to be less of a kind of an a-hole.
Well, that's why we need people like you, because you are saying you learned this. Not just these things happen and they're all jerks and well, you learned it.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I was thinking about that recently too, because I don't know why I cannot hold dates and times in my mind very well at all.
Our producer Jim is also nodding now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a common thing.
And I don't know, maybe it's not just me, but thankfully AI, so it helps. But I was thinking about it the other day, and I was just like, I was immediately thinking, well, how can I fix the problem? And I was like, no, that's ableist. I don't have to fix the problem. Well, the problem doesn't need to be both. I don't need to fix the problem, and somehow, and it's different in my head, the problem doesn't need to be fixed by me. And I think that is about communication, disclosure, even just saying, I mean, literally, you and I were texting a few weeks ago, and behind the curtain, we communicate off the podcast. But I had said, so on this Zoom meeting, I'm going to be in one place, and Cindy, you're going to be in one place, and the third person is going to be in another place, and we're going to talk on our phones and computers. And Cindy texts back, yeah, like a Zoom meeting.
Now, to be clear, I did not use any tone because it was a text message. So could you say that with no intonation whatsoever? Kind of like this, like, yeah, it's a Zoom meeting, or it's a Zoom meeting, because then your response was, oh, like all the Zoom meetings.
Oh, that's right.
I wasn't the one that said that. I was just trying to explain, like, I will be in California and you're on where you are. Someone else wrote you, parents. So I just said, it's like a typical Zoom meeting. And then you were like, oh, like they always know.
They always are. Like the nature
because I was being patient with, okay, something is happening with this person right now where they forgot how Zoom meetings are. And I was in a grocery store anyway. So I was just kind of like, all right, I just need to stop this person from thinking that Zoom is like some new concept, or that we all need to be in the same place.
Well, we're going to be in the same place.
Like all three of the people, and then we'd have just a computer, and what would we be looking at?
We're doing it. Well, that's the thing, note-taking. And you're right, I did. Now that I say it out loud and you're hearing me talk about it, you're right. Your text didn't have any actual tone. It was just words written down. Okay, well, I guess that's how I interpreted it.
Sure.
But in a good way. It was a good way.
Right.
Yeah. All that is to say, right? Access is the fact that we can text about what Zoom is.
Yeah.
And we can Zoom about what texting means.
Whoa.
And yet we still say, well, if we're going to Zoom, you have to have your camera on. And right. Which is, I know that was a rule back in pandemic Zoom times. I'm trying to get us back onto what was the exact little prompt there?
What have you learned? What would you like to carry forward?
Yeah, I think what I've learned and would like to carry forward is, well, that it's something we say and are supposed to know, that all of this stuff, it's ongoing work. It's not ongoing, I already know it. It's not static. I know this stuff, so shut up.
Right.
But it is kind of dynamic like that. And it's okay to be like, oh, you mean how Zoom works? Smiley face. If we need to communicate, whatever.
Yeah. So you took the feeling that it's not okay out of it, which I think is important. Anytime I ask for anything that's like extra, which is a weird thing to say, well, I feel guilty.
Sure.
And so just like giving people the space to be like, well, no, I just like literally, like today you invited me to a meeting. And the reason I like kind of can't go is because I want it to be on Zoom. And I mean, because I'll be kind of in transit, right? And so if I had spoken up for my needs and cared a little bit more, I might have been like, well, I need that to be in this format. And then you could decide if that was necessary. But I would feel guilty about it from the moment I requested it until I went to bed tonight, because I'm not socialized to say things like that. And I imagine other people are too, based on like how they've been treated.
Oh no!
Their identity category.
There was a text. I was up worrying for 2 days about some random text. A week ago. But wait, can we bring Jim into this?
I don't know, Jim. Hey, Jim.
If we put you on the spot, you've been here more or less quiet for the whole last 5 episodes. Is there anything you might have learned about access? And if not, you can totally take this out. But if you don't want to be involved.
No, absolutely. I think awareness is a big and important thing. And a lot of things that if you're, I guess you could say maybe a stereotypical person, I don't know if that's the right word for it, you might not notice how these things would be important for other people. And I think it's kind of relevant that you kind of picked A Christmas Carol as the model for this, because it really revolves around the fate of Tiny Tim, who is himself disabled in one way or another, and whether he is able to go on and live is dependent on Scrooge and him becoming aware of the needs of others and what they might be missing.
That's a pretty good takeaway. If anyone in the audience also has taken anything like that away, I think we've done our job.
Yeah.
We've done our volunteer job.
Yeah. Dang, it's great.
Yeah. Well, you know what the music means. Okay. Well, that was our holiday episode.
It was good.